And welcome everyone back to an exciting episode of Exploring Our Secret Past. We are back from a 2 week break. I am joined by Carla, my media guru.
Good evening, everyone.
And tonight we have a special treat for y'all. Not only a paranormal investigator from our neck of the woods, but she also has some really cool gifts and some really cool background to share. So without further ado, I give you Michelle Gray.
Yay!
For having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Thank you for being here. So why don't you start with introducing yourself so everyone can be aware of the exciting background that you have.
Well, I came from Tyler, Texas, which is pretty deep in East Texas, and now I live in Granbury. I help out with Hood Paranormal here in Granbury when we do investigations, and I try to help out whenever somebody needs some help. I've had special talents since I was little, didn't even know what they were until I got up older and, kind of kept it quiet to myself. Wasn't really accepted back, in the 80s and in 90s and stuff. You were kind of thought of pretty bad or crazy if you did it. It was actually just a few years ago that a friend of mine here in Granbury said, no, you've got to tell people about what you can do. Go with me to this investigation. And that's when it all kind of started. And it's really refreshing to be able to be open about it. And of course, it probably helps that I'm almost 46 and have grandkids and kids, and there's nobody left in the house to worry about. And, I can have a little bit more freedom with I don't care anymore. So the closer to 50 I get, the less I give a crap about what everyone thinks about me. And, I've been able to help quite a few people find things, wills and guns, and tell them what was in things. And you get your doubters at first, but then it's always enjoyable to get the closure when they call back, a week later or a month later and say, oh, do you remember when you told us there was that in that curio of my grandmother's? And well, it really was. Or thanks for, we looked in this particular spot and we found that will, or we found that, gun that was missing, or whatever it was. So
Man, now I know who to call when I lose something.
You know what? That I'm probably wrong. If it's keys or anything logical, I'm out. I can't find my own keys half the time. If I didn't have a giant fuzzy bat on my key ring, I would never find it. My kids are always like, Mom, you have got to get these little finders for your keys and things. Hairbrushes, probably own 50 hairbrushes, 30 hot gun. Yeah. Organization is not my thing.
Yeah, well, that cuts me out then because I was thinking phone and keys.
Oh, yeah. No, you're on your own, buddy. You're going to have to find a locator just like me. So,
hey, Nikki. She's one of our Aussie friends.
Oh, hi. Hi, Nikki. How are you?
Hey, Nikki.
So, to get things started, I know we were talking about this the other day, and we were talking this afternoon a little bit about it, and you wanted an exclusive first reveal story for our show.
I do.
Y'all are hearing it first here.
It is first.
About your grandfather helping you out, finding something.
I did. So I took a hiatus for a while. My dad died in February. So I kind of just dropped out of paranormal for a while, dropped out of photography, just had to just focus on this house and couldn't really deal with grief and anything else. So, my mom, taking care of her, my grandmother, as much as I can from a good distance. My grandmother, who had started showing some signs of dementia, she had always had this shotgun. This is going to get real country real fast. Okay. So we're from East Texas. So this is normal for us. But my grandmother lost her double barrel shotgun. Right. Now she'd had this gun my whole life. So we lost the gun. She swore somebody came in and stole it. Nobody came in and stole it. They live in BFE. Ain't nobody coming in there. But the gun was missing. So I had asked the spirits when Dad had died to please give me time, that I needed a break. I could not handle their problems and mine. And whether I was grieving so strongly that I just couldn't get anybody, or if they respected the boundaries, I would like to think that I have a good rapport with the spirits around me, that they would be like, back off of her for a minute. But after a while, we needed to find this gun. I was actually worried that my grandmother, she lives adjacent to my mother, same door connecting, but two different houses. I was worried that she would think mother was an intruder, and in her not right mind, she might shoot my mother. So we couldn't find this gun. We looked everywhere for this gun. And this is not a small gun. This is a double barrel shotgun. So I had put it out into the air. I need help. I need help finding this gun. Can, someone, months went by, probably 4 months went by. So for 3 nights, I dreamed about, I heard a voice, a male voice that I recognized. And I would hear him say, she's not listening. She's not listening. So I've kind of got a pattern. If I dream something or hear something for 3 days, I have to investigate it. It's not out of stress. It's not out of what I've ate. It's nothing like that. It is something that I have to investigate. It's 3 days. There are 3 nights or 3 days of hearing or seeing or something like that. So on the 3rd day, I was heading to my mother's house, and I walk in and I go, I don't know what you're not listening to, but a man that I know, it's not Grandpa George. It was actually my grandpa CB, who was my grandmother's second husband. I said, I don't know. And at the time we didn't know it was CB. I just said, it's a male voice that I recognize. I don't know what you're not listening to. And she's like, I'm listening to everything. So my mother's also an empath. So we're sitting there a little bit longer, and she goes, oh, I'm not listening. And it was about some financial things involving my grandmother going into a nursing home. And she was like, okay. And I was like, thank God,
Yeah.
thank you. They can stop now. Well, then I said, Mom, something else is coming through. It's a box. And she's like, there's no box. I'm like, Mom, just hear me out. It's this big and this wide and that thick. And I just kept doing the same size, this thick. And she's like, I don't have anything like that. I'm like, listen, it's not the bill box. It's not, we went through all the things. We already knew what was that size. And I was like, in something about rings, there's something about rings. And she's like, she's in that stage where she's like, you've been driving a long time. Too much Dr. Pepper, whatever. And I was like, listen. So she goes to the restroom, and she sees a jewelry box on her way back through that my dad had installed, that was up, and it was this wide and that thick and that long.
Wow.
And she goes, oh, okay. And I go, what is up with the rings? And she said, I opened it up and there was my wedding rings in there. And she said, those were Nana and CB's wedding rings.
Oh,
And
wow.
then
Wow.
I hear the biggest bellied laugh, like almost like a Santa. And she goes, well, CB had this really deep belly laugh. So he was, to me, he was acknowledging, ha ha ha, I told you it was me. Because I told her, I think it's CB. And she's like, you were a little girl when CB, Nana and separated. And I was like, I think it's CB. So then we're sitting there, we're talking, and I'm trying my best to ignore him. He obviously, even in death, is not an easy man to ignore. And I'm like, Mom, he's saying Louis L'Amour. We're supposed to go to Nana's house and look for Louis L'Amour. And I thought he wanted us, that's one of her favorite authors. I thought he was saying, bring her a Louis L'Amour book to read. So I was like, we got to go in here and find this Louis L'Amour. So we're looking at all of my grandmother's books. Obviously, we have a book thing. And we're looking through the books, and then I'm like, shoes, something about shoes. And she's like, this is getting crazy. So we're sitting and looking. Well, she's like, oh, shelf, look. And there's the Louis L'Amour book on a shelf, and my grandmother has shoes stacked all the way around it. For what reason, I don't know. But there's shoes all the way around that Louis L'Amour book on her
Oh
book.
my gosh.
So then I was like, okay, well, let's get out of here. Okay, CB, we got the book. We're taking it to Nana. Mom's putting it in her purse right now. Basically, I'm done. Let's leave this alone. We get in there. We're sitting down. We're talking. And I'm like, he's not finished. We've got to go back in there. Now, mind you, we have been looking for this gun forever. We have looked in every possible place this woman could put it, indoors and out. So I said, we got to go back in there. He's trying to show me something. And I think he's trying to show me where Nana's gun is. And she's like, yeah, okay. That gun's gone. I was like, it's not gone. So when you walk into my mother's house, I'm like, just let me do this. So you walk in from my mother's kitchen into my grandmother's bedroom, into my grandmother's bathroom, into her dining room, into her living room, into her kitchen, then into her pantry. On the other side of the like in the pantry, is an extra refrigerator. I pulled a giant mat out, and behind that was the shotgun.
Wow.
Wow.
And then I said, well, here it is, Mom. And she's like, okay. So, and then I never heard CV again.
Wow.
So I sent it out there, and it's just so funny that it would be CV that would come and show me where the gun was that he had bought Nana. Mom tells me he bought her that gun when they were dating.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
She lived on lake property, and she was having a problem with snakes and all kinds of stuff. And he bought her that gun. So he used the rings for confirmation that it was him, and then showed me. And I mean, it was like I knew exactly where that gun was.
Wow.
And so that was really neat. And I got to talk to him, at least for a second.
Yeah.
So I was very little, but according to the pictures, I really liked him. So that was a really neat. And, it was a good way for me to get back in and say, you know what? It's okay. It's time. You're supposed to be doing this. Because I had been so angry since Dad died, just like crazy angry. And I'm not an angry person, but I've just been so angry.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that brings me to an interesting question because you said you were able to turn it off. So is that something you've done before where you needed a break and you were able to turn it off, or how do you handle that?
I think that it depends on the spirit in some ways. I think if it had been, now I'm not saying I didn't sense anything. I'm not saying I didn't go eat at an old cafe that they had a bunch of antiques and I didn't feel an attachment. I was just like, I can't, I just can't. And I think a lot of times the spirits will pull from me to be able to communicate to. And if I'm weak, I think they're just like, I would like to think they're like, no, she just can't do this right now. We're not going anywhere. So let's just give her a little time. And everybody, no matter who it is, understands grieving and death. Even if they're dead, even if they didn't have death in their life when they were living, they have seen, if they're talking to me, they've seen their loved ones grieve and other people grieve. So I think grief, alive or dead, is a universal thing that spirits and alive humans, understand.
Right.
So I can ignore them to a certain extent unless they will not be respectful. And there are some that are not respectful. And I don't blame them. They finally find somebody that can hear them. I would be a little panicky too, and persistent, wanting someone to hear me. I can't imagine. We don't know how long they've been there. We don't know how long they've been doing this.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to take a moment because we got a lot of people saying hello in the chat group, and I don't want to be like ignoring them.
No.
But hello to Carol Garcia. Thank you for joining us. Hey to Irene. She's watching from Japan. She just got up.
Hey, Irene.
And Tammy, is that the Tammy that you know, Carla?
Yeah, hello.
She says hello. And let's see, we got Jeff from Ohio saying hello and happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
the
And
best day course season of the year.
Yeah.
Yep. And where's our costumes? Well, Jeff, my costume today is podcast host.
Co-host for me.
What you get.
Yep.
I put on makeup, so that's about
it. Teresa William Griffin says, hey.
Paranormal. She's our healer. Mm-hmm.
Oh, hey.
She is absolutely one of the most astonishing women I've ever met in my life. She can, you name it, she can do it. And she's got
Wow.
such a calm aura about her and just vibration. She can be recording in a room with us and we don't pick up her vibration at all. And
Wow.
in fact, I dreamed about Teresa before I met her. I dreamed about her 20 years before I met her. Described everything, even a belt she owned. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Wow.
So, yeah. Yep. Teresa's great, but I'm glad she could join. So, but yeah, amazing woman.
So there you go, folks. Keep dreaming because apparently they do happen.
They do have. And there's another member of our paranormal group named Mike Rivera, and he and I are like twins. We bounce off of each other. We finish each other's sentences. I mean, it's just amazing the power that we have together. Oh, I have a little bit of a girl crush on her. And she's crafty. Like she can do pottery and she goes and mines her own crystals and stuff.
Oh, wow.
And then cuts them
yeah.
and does all of this coolness. Like I want to be her when I grow up.
Man, I've dug for crystals, but I've never shaped them into anything.
She does all kinds of stuff. She's just so cool.
Wow.
So cool.
Maybe we'll have to have you back on with her and
Yeah.
Definitely.
paranormal.
I know that
For
Mike,
sure.
Mike is interested in it too. He can just flop down on the couch with me. So. Oh,
Hey, we have our first hello from YouTube.
Yeah, that's Gabe Choate. That's actually my ex-husband.
Okay. Well, hello to you too.
Actually, y'all should have he and I back on there to talk about what it's like to be married to somebody like me. Because, you know, we're exes, but we're still friends. So it's not easy for a spouse. You know, his dad woke us up one night woke me up continuously over and over to ask him where the damn tractor was.
Yeah.
Honest. And I'm like, wake up. Your dad wants to know where the damn tractor is. And it was gone long before I was there. So, but his dad did save my life too. I almost got struck by lightning and his dad came in and shoved me to the ground and it scared me. I thought it was my husband. They're like same structure, everything, you know. And I thought it was him and I just knew he was gone. But he was at work and yeah, it was bad.
Yeah.
But
so Teresa and Gabe, if you guys send me a friend request, we can get you on the show on Facebook.
yeah.
Michelle has me as a friend, so you can probably find me through her. So one thing you brought up that I found really interesting was you said you got these gifts as a little kid. How as a little kid did you handle this, and what impact did it have on you as a child?
Well, from young, we were always told that my family had seen spirits, you know, oh, you remember seeing that ghost? And, you know, so that wasn't, but then they kind of stray away from it because, you know, in East Texas, there's only one ghost and that's the Holy Ghost. So, you know, they kind of strayed us away from that. So I knew that there was a possibility of ghosts. And then when I started drawing, which I know now, or I believe now, there's no facts about it, but I believe that children who can see auras don't draw their pictures in only black, because most children learn to draw by using a black crayon, by looking at coloring books, by looking at drawings their parents had done with pens and pencils and things. So a child naturally learns that when they draw, to draw with something dark and then go in with the color of the thing. Well, I believe that children who see things, auras and things younger, I believe that they will draw things in other colors. Like they may draw the leaves with a green crayon instead of drawing a black outlined leaf and coloring it in. So I think that starting out looking young, I did that. I could draw very detailed pictures very young, and I would not draw everything with a black crayon. So now looking back at my pictures, I believe that I could see colors as little as 2 and 3, old enough to pick up a pencil or a crayon or whatever. And I actually preferred to not use black unless it was something black. I liked to use other colors. And then when I got into school, my teachers would get on to me for, you know, why did you draw that person purple? Why did you draw that tree? Because that, I believe, is what I saw, was that even trees and things like that. I believe that I would see some kind of, they're living. Why would I not see something around them?
Right.
Yeah.
But then I was very sick as a child, and there was an elderly lady that would come and sit with me. I'm still horrified at thunderstorms. The pressure changes, the spirits get louder. I don't like thunderstorms and lightning storms. I just don't. I used to go get my kids and put them in bed with me instead of them coming. I would go get them and the dogs and anything else I could put in that bed. I'm that big of a coward. So yeah, so I was that parent.
So thunderstorm party in your room.
Yeah.
I hate it. And I bought a house with a metal roof. I designed it, so that was brilliant. But anyway, so I didn't know who this lady was, and come to find out she's my great-great-grandmother. So that was probably from the age of 5 on, she was with me. Anytime I was sick or there was a thunderstorm, she would come and actually physically touch me. She could touch me. And then there was things like, seeing my grandmother roll dice without it had set, and she would call it Fujiing. No kidding, she called it Fujiing. And she would do this over the dice, and you could see it flip. Now, of course, that's great denial in my family that ever happened. But I was level to that table. That is not something wasn't allowed to watch Smurfs when I was that age. How would I know? Mother was horrified I would get into black magic. Well, I didn't get into black magic, but
how do you draw so well the black magic from the Smurfs?
Because of Gargamel.
Nothing he did ever worked.
I know. Black magic doesn't pay, kids. Black magic doesn't pay.
No, that's funny.
But yeah, so I've known. And then there was things throughout time. The worst things were and I didn't really understand it at the time, but I was married to Maureen at 16. I was not pregnant. I'd like to state for the internet. I didn't get pregnant till I was almost 18. But I got married at 16, moved out to Camp Pendleton, and there was always this heart-wrenching feeling. It seemed to be like a day before someone, got notified, or, there was some kind of dramatic thing going to happen on base. I tend to have got this really just gut aching feeling. And I didn't know what it was. I just thought it was nerves at the time. And that's what the doctor said. Oh, you're just so nervous, Nancy, and so doctors always, that's what you're taught. You don't feel good, something's going on, you go to the doctor. Well, you go to the doctor, they don't believe in paranormal or anything like that, so they give you pills. And it's like, it's just a vicious cycle. So, yeah, hopefully I didn't get too far off on that explanation. No. But I was young.
No.
So
Jeff said he has to go, and stay safe and keep in touch.
You too. Thanks, Jeff.
And I think Carol has a question.
She does, and it's a good one. Michelle, could you please tell me what would be the best way to remember your dreams?
Well, I think it depends on if you forget them immediately. If you forget them immediately, I would keep some kind of pen or paper by the bed and jot them down just real fast to remember them. And I think it's important to know, do you dream in color? Do you dream in sound? Do you smell things? Are the people that you're dreaming about actually the people that you're seeing? Because I think a lot of times we will know a person is that person, but it's not their person. It'll be Elvis, or it'll be, whoever, the mailman, but it's actually someone else. So you need to kind of figure out how you dream. So I would say, if you cannot remember your dreams in the morning, number one, they may not have been anything you need to remember. I think a spirit dream is something that will kind of stay with you. It will kind of haunt you. Maybe it'll happen multiple days, like for me. But I would say writing it down if you're not confident that you would remember the details that you would want. But most of the time, if you're having a dream, as far as me, if I'm having a dream and I do not remember it the next day, it was from stress, it was from allergy medicine I was taking, or it was from some other external. But if you have a dream repeatedly every single day, or you have a dream that you wake up and you go get a drink of water and you go to the bathroom and you come back and you go right back into that dream, that dream is important and you're supposed to be remembering that. But I believe that our brain knows how to kick out the things that don't really matter. So I wouldn't worry about the dreams that you're not remembering. That would be my advice on that, is to write it down, and if you really, really, if it's driving you crazy. So that's my advice on the dreams. I hope that helps.
So sounds like another thing you could do too is date the dreams and keep them in a journal, and that way you can see if there's a pattern of when you're dreaming it. Like if it's on a Tuesday night and a Thursday night, maybe there's something in connection with that, or if it's 3 days in a row, like you're saying, and then you don't, and then you do. It's interesting to kind of map the patterns and see if what you're feeling those days and see if that's a correlation.
And with the days, I would be sure to make sure, are you watching a certain show every Tuesday? Are you watching a new whatever show? Is that possibly coming into your mind, maybe triggering some memories or something that may or may not be significant? Kind of watch, like he's saying, watch a certain day. If that's the day you're having it, is there a show you're doing? Are you going to a certain location? If you're a sensitive and you're going, say, to the chiropractor every Tuesday, and he collects antique watches and they're in his office. If you're pulling an attachment and you're going to that doctor's office every Tuesday, you could be, if you're sensitive to those things, you could be pulling in something off of those watches. So I would look for that also, because a lot of dreams are environmental. I 100% believe that. It's from either, hitting a trauma or hitting a memory or just spooked us out or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find it interesting when you mention the colors because I never thought about it, but growing up, like if I was drawing a mountain, I would always do it in brown. I didn't do a
Right.
black outline. I would
Right.
just say mountains are brown, so it's brown. Leaves on a tree are green, so it's green. I never thought about it, but yeah, I don't think I ever really outlined anything in green or black. I mean, growing up.
Right. And if you saw auras, even now, if you see, as a photographer, I tend to see things more exact. And I can't say that that doesn't have to do with the paranormal things that I can already do. Oh, you're so welcome. But yeah, so I think it's important. And I think it's important too to look at have a child draw a person. Have them draw multiple people. And especially on days where they've had a hard time at school or something like that, have them draw and make sure there's oranges and reds and, make sure they have those main aura colors, the greens, the blues, the purple, maybe not purple so much, but I don't see a lot of purples when I was younger. I don't see auras now, but, I just kind of see everything now for me is a vibration. I've moved over from auras. Everything is a vibration to a point where I can't handle some things because of the vibration, which is hard being a photographer of musicians. A lot of days it is just madness because you've got the bass going and you've got the speakers going and you've got all of this stuff.
Especially if you got to get close.
Oh, and I do. I get right up to them. Here's an odd thing, though, that I was actually talking to a drummer at a festival that I was just talking to the other day. He said, I said something, we were talking about the drums. And he's like, well, it sounds different to me behind the drums. And I said, it feels different for me behind the drums. When I'm in front of a drum, the sound is pushing me. Mm-hmm. But when I'm behind the drum, it's pulling me. And I tend to not get around the drummers. They're usually hidden up against a wall somewhere. So I don't have a lot of chances to get behind them. But at this particular festival, this time I was able to get behind the drummer. And I noticed that when he would bang, the sound would go out. But I was feeling the pull in, which is an unusual feeling for me.
I wonder if that's why when you go to like Native American powwows and ceremonies and stuff, they sit in a circle around the drum and it's on the ground facing up instead of out.
My guess would be because they're sending it up to the spirits. Would be
right.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Never thought about that, but yeah, when you're mentioning the force going outward, that yeah, theirs goes up to the Great Spirit, which is their
Right.
intention.
Right. So that would be my guess.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, how did you develop your gifts? Was it just something that innately you were born with, or how
Do
did
I have
you?
control over it? Because I didn't get that memo. I thought I was still a hot mess. It ever evolves. About every third or fourth birthday, I get some weird little trick that's new. Um, Probably, I would guess, the vibrations are getting stronger every year, but I got the ability to smell things with people, associations, like a lot of, and I've tested this theory at a sheriff's office. I will not say names because it was not legal to do it. But anyway, I had been in a bar and a man had walked in, and it was just one of those moments where he walks in and every single muscle, everything was like, run, get away from this guy. He's the worst. And all of a sudden, I smell, and don't ask me how I know what this smell is. I just know what it is. It smelled like burnt baby powder. Okay. Don't know why. That's just what it was. So I told the person I was with, I said, we got to get out of here. That man's bad. It's like something to do with women or kids or something. I don't know what it is. It's just bad. We got to get out of here. So time passes by, coming along another creep away guy. And I get the same thing, that burnt powder. So I called a friend of mine, and he was a sheriff at the time. And I said, I kind of need access to your jail. And he was like, well, there's one way to get in here. I was like, not that way. I want the kind where I can walk out. Not in it for that one. So he's like, I tell you what, I said, I just need a small, what about the intake cells? There was like 8 cells for intake. It was kind of like a holding when they decide to take them where they're going to take them. And I said, I need to walk through there at night when they're all asleep. Nobody's around. I don't need any vibrations. I need to go through here and see if I'm right. And he's like, all right, small town. It's like, whatever, sure, I'll bring you in with prisoners. So there were 8 cells, and I wrote down that 5 or 6, the memory's getting a little older, but 5 or 6 of them, I think it was 5. I said, the 6th one, I'm not so sure about. I said, but 5 of these, there is something. They have been in for doing inappropriate things with women or children, or abuse, or just some kind of bad thing against a woman or child. And I said, the 6th one, I feel like it, but it's not really. So he said, well, here's the facts. That actually is right. 5 of them are in, and one we think is over a divorce, like a false, accusation. And the little feeling I felt, the guy could have, been squirrely and a teenager and felt guilty for like maybe relocating a girlfriend or something like that. And that could have been his guilt that I was feeling that actually wasn't a thing. But so that the burnt powder is actually something that comes up when I'm around some form of predator, I believe. I luckily don't get that smell a lot, but yeah. So I've started doing the smells. I can smell relatives, perfumes, and pickles and chewing tobacco and beer and all these weird things that associate with people. And I'm able to help people that I'm with. I'm like, I'm getting this female through, and I'm smelling, caramel apples, and that is helping me in the identifying things for people too. So now I'm not only seeing with eyes that are not these eyes, because I never see spirits. I don't see them like I would see you. I see them in my head after everything is processed. So it's more like I'm fed the information, and then I could see them enough that I could literally have a sketch artist do it, down to the clothes they're wearing.
Wow.
Like that. So, yeah.
That's pretty cool because when I was learning my gifts, one of the phrases I always taught was you have to look with eyes unseen. And it's like, I was like, what the hell does that mean? And then it's like you're saying you're seeing, but not what your eyes are seeing. It's what you're seeing beyond what your eyes see to the truth of what's there.
Right. And I have a problem And it's with a few different people that I've gone out to do some paranormal stuff with. They seem to be overzealous with sharing the information that I'm telling them when I actually need time to process, because my brain has to take it from what it's like a word association game,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it's, the yellow shirt. Oh, well, the yellow shirt. Okay, well, that's not enough. Is it someone wearing the yellow shirt? Is the yellow shirt hanging? Is it a yellow shirt? Or, and it has to be processed, even whether it's male or female. I need a minute for everything to go through the process of interpretation, because I am not seeing it. So my brain has to do a lot of the seeing for me and not my actual eyes. And I have a problem with people being like, oh, well, that's not how it is, or oh, this is oh, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, don't quote me until the end. Let's do this. Let me process everything. Just everybody relax. Which is why I like to go in at the beginning of an investigation with Mike or by myself. And we like to work through the room. And then when we're done, everything is started to process and we can give an accurate interpretation of what we've seen. But if you go straight off of what I'm saying immediately, you will not get an accurate reading, because it has to process to get its accuracy.
Right.
It has
The yellow shirt could mean sunflower, could mean sun,
so many things.
star.
Yeah, it could even be a favorite thing of the person that's coming through. They could have had a little yellow shirt that was their favorite shirt. And it may not even have, by the end, it could be get down to cornmeal, you don't know. It's just
Right.
a matter of the things that have happened in my life and what association my brain is picking up immediately to get it boiled down to the pure reading. So if I'm allowed to just be left alone and to process, then you'll get an accurate reading. So I tend to go in, because when there's too many people, you get too many vibrations, you get too many thoughts. It's just too much. So if Mike and I and Teresa can go in and she can record and we can just do our thing, then it's all, great at the end. But it's the rush too that's frustrating, because then you have to be like, no, that's not right. I'm sorry that they put that out there, because that's not accurate. I needed more time. And then, once people start thinking that that's a fact, and then you switch it up at the end, they think, how is this even possible? Oh, she switched her story. No, somebody reported the story too soon before I could get the actual facts.
Right. Yeah, we actually had a similar thing in Jefferson one night, where the TV shows do such a disservice because they make everything look like it's instant. Where I took a photograph and this guy rushes up to me and gets like, "Ooh, what'd you see? What'd you see?" I'm like, "A courtyard."
Right.
I don't know it's in the photo until I have a chance to look at it later. It's like we don't get instant answers.
Right. And I don't watch any of the paranormal stuff. I literally can't handle a lot of it. One, I'm just like, this is BS. This is total BS. Like 3 minutes and I'm like, little less hair gel, just a little bit less hair gel might make the brain work a little better. And then the other times I'm just like, it's just too scary for me. I don't watch anything scary. When I mean anything, it takes me a year to watch one American Horror Story. And that's like nothing. But forget Jason and all that stuff. I can't watch it. I just can't. And I don't investigate. Like when people say, let's go to, I don't know, some bridge or something like that. I'm like, don't tell me anything. I don't want to know anything, because I don't want to be altered at all by anything.
Right.
Like you said, I just want to go in not knowing anything. So I like it. Do y'all do that when you investigate?
We do. Sometimes we'll look up history, and sometimes we go in blind.
I think it's good to have different departments in the investigation. I think a lot of times I see a lot of groups who it's too blurry. Like everybody's doing everything. And I don't think that works. I think you need to do one person that studies, or two people, however many people you want to study the history of the place. Then you have your investigators go in and, everyone doesn't need to do everything. Maybe have some sound guys that do this. Maybe they don't even have to believe, just have dudes doing sound or chicks doing sound, and just kind of make people, have departments to where that they help with.
Yeah.
And yes, like putting a puzzle together. Mm-hmm.
And I'll be honest, is I kind of sometimes like knowing the history, not the paranormal history, the actual
Right.
history.
Mm-hmm.
Because like sometimes I might be like hearing horses and being like, why am I hearing horses? But if I know the history and it was, say, a cattle ranch was nearby and a horse ranch, was nearby, I'm like, well, that may be why I'm hearing the horses. So who's here from that? And it's like it kind of helps me to understand what I'm hearing. Whereas if I just go horses, I could go, well, I'm in Texas. Of course, I'm going to hear horses and write it off.
So you're talking about like horses from the past, like an echo that you're hearing, or like that there's an actual ranch down the road and you could be hearing that?
No, like hearing like hooves going off, and there's no horse ranches around anymore. But
A residual.
like a residual.
Yeah, I could see that, and I don't mind doing it after the fact, but I don't really debunk anything really until the end, unless I know for a fact this is a dusty house. We got lots on. There's gonna be some, it's not an orb. And I think people call orbs so much more than they should call orbs. Like I think everybody is just like orb crazy, and I am so not even impressed with an orb. I'm just like, okay, cool. Now, if it's one and it's kind of hovering, then I might be like, oh, that's neat. But if it's just like a flyby orb or dust or moth or whatever, and maybe that's just because it's my life, maybe to me, it's not, but I'm not like a thrill seeker. I mean, if I could hand this to somebody and go, would you like these gifts? I would like to just not hear spirit chatter all the time, to almost a deafening sometimes. If you want this, here you go. But it's not like that. I have it for a reason. And so it's mine. So I have to own it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Carol has another question for you.
Mm-hmm.
She says, does Michelle do any cases with the police?
I do not. I have only been out of my curio closet for about 3 years. And honestly, law enforcement really doesn't take a lot of mind to a lot of us. It's a special force that would actually listen. I mean, I would be willing to help if anyone needed it, or if I came across something that I thought would be helpful, I would definitely do that. But no, as of this point, I don't work with anybody.
Yeah. And what's interesting for you too, Carol, is what was it, like 3 or 4 episodes before or somewhere in the past, and one of our episodes, we actually had a couple of police officers come on, and they formed a paranormal team. So
Wow.
they're starting to come out with it, and they were saying they had to be careful with what they said and how they do things, because they're held by a standard of, if it word gets to their captain, you got 2 people out here doing this or that, then their jobs could be at risk.
Yeah, I would love to talk to them. And it's not, I don't even know half the time how I could help. Oh, that's another friend of mine. He's actually a really, really neat guy. Jason, just met him. He's a jack of all trades too. So I would like to talk to them, because it's a lot of times I don't even know that I could be helping. But just by me giving them the things that are coming through could maybe help them. You know what I mean?
Right.
They might be able to know.
We asked them if, you guys would use mediums or psychics, and they said personally they would like to, but it's still their captain may be open to it, but it's still kind of like a touchy subject. And I think the problem with it is the judges like evidence that they can be concrete. This is paper, there's a paper trail, or this happened that obviously points to this.
Right.
and mediums are in the middle, and so there's nothing that they can lock and say this is definitely. And so I think that's the problem with the system is it's not necessarily just the cops, it's the lawyers and the judges and everybody that interprets the law.
Well, the
That makes
process
it hard.
is such a definite line, so I kind of understand that. But I'd be willing to help anybody who needed help. If you, I don't know what I can do. I'll put it that way. I can just do things, but I don't know that I can do until I'm doing them.
Right.
I got a pretty clue of kind of maybe what I can do until I'm there. And then who knows what I can do.
Right.
And I know that I'm about to be 46 in February. And
Oh, happy early birthday.
thank you. Something is brewing. And I don't know what it is, but there is something coming up in 23 that is kind of the right place at the right time that I'm supposed to be there. And I don't know what it is. I
Is
just
this going
know
to be one
that-
of your fours?
Hmm?
Is this going to be one of your 4 birthdays? Because you said every 4th birthday you get something.
Yeah, it actually is going to be. I was 42 the last time. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow. I didn't even think about that. Good catch. Math is not my strong point. But yeah,
No,
I was
see,
just counting
I'm
back
like
weird
most
things.
guys. I listen.
I was just counting weird things that have happened. I'm like, oh, that was 3 weird things ago. Oh yeah, 4 weird things. Yeah, that's right. I just kind of gauge my life by oddities. So, but yeah, I mean, and I'm glad I got to be with you guys. Mike and I, we've talked, a couple times before, and I just feel really comfortable coming off after the whole dad thing and getting back into the paranormal. I'm hoping to be out with, I haven't really been doing any kind of investigations. All someone has to do is just call me and, I'll come out. But like I said, I'm not a thrill seeker. So a lot of people don't want me to come out and investigate with them because I'm not going to blow things out of proportion. I'm not going to, I do everything really chill and I don't get really excited. I mean, I've had people petting me before and just all kinds of stuff.
Well, before you answer this question,
Okay.
I'm sure Carla joins me in saying our sincerest condolences.
Yes.
Thank
Good passing, your dad.
Yeah, that's that's
That's
a
a hard
world
thing.
changer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you don't realize what a huge impact they are.
Yeah.
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 So, Northwest Paranormal Research Group is asking, what do you think about the number 11? And I don't know, do we need context behind this or?
Well, the first thing I thought of is multiple pair,
Mm-hmm.
like 2.
Repetitive.
Yes. So like, I don't think of it anything as itself, but I see it as just 2 repetitive things that continuously, that's just what comes to my mind. The number 11 doesn't, but the numbers and the symbol to me, I just constantly get that. And if I were in an investigation and I saw an 11, I would think about Mike and I, how we need to go the same direction. And, but for some reason, I just think about that. So
Well, I know 11 is one of those master numbers, so I don't know if that means
I don't know
anything.
what that is. So.
But he says, even in the universe, I guess because it's 1 and 1, a balance.
Oh, no.
Maybe.
Same, maybe. I don't know. That's just what I don't know.
That's what I'm picking up when he says even in the universe. I'm like, well, there's 2 1s to make an 11.
Yeah. I mean,
And 11 does
I
equal
just
2.
see the separation and then the coming back together. And then it's just an odd number.
Yeah.
Just want to go down to the base version. But yeah, you just see the repetitiveness of it. It's facing the same way. They're side by side. I got it. Awesome.
One of us got it, so we'll
Ding,
all.
ding,
We're gonna say me. I got it.
All right, Michelle got it.
That's my chicken dinner right there.
So earlier you were saying you're like about, shutting it off because you needed to work on some stuff.
Right.
Do
I
you
need.
feel like emotions play into the abilities, like how they, like if you're in a strong emotional state, the abilities are stronger and they're more noisy, or do you not really notice a correlation of that?
I At this point, I can say I have not noticed a correlation with my emotion and my ability to receive. Now, I have noticed my absorption of attitudes in the room of living and dead. Like I become more aggressive in a thing if someone is more aggressive. But the only emotion that I could say that would have anything to involve would be fear, because I am a big chicken. So if something seems, but when I say that in an investigation, in an investigation where it was frightening in the room, I went in there to get my friend out of the room because she was choking. I shut the door. It's pitch dark in there, and these people are screaming, and she's being choked. And I get her out of there, but I just slowly and politely shut the door and stay in the dark room while these spirits are screaming at me. She's screaming, why? And he's just yelling at me, and they're just bombarding me. There's a video on Hood Paranormal, and I am sobbing, like cannot even contain myself. But yet I'm in the room. My instinct was not to run, it was to get them out, shut the door, and handle what was in the room. So even though I say fear would stop me from doing something, I should have been horrified at that point. But instead, I shut the door. I was in the room. I maintained, aside from the ugly crying, which I was doing. And that wasn't from fear. That was this woman, this spirit's absolute anguish. She was just not understanding why. So it wasn't even my emotion. It was just him screaming and her wailing. And it was just, and so close. If they had had breath, I would have felt it. Like if they had had it, it would have been that close.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be, fear would be the only thing I would say. And obviously that doesn't, but some buildings I will not go in. I will not go in them. There are some places I have walked up to, floors I've gone to, museums I've gone to, where I'm like, not happening. It will not be good for me in there. I either know I'm going to absorb something, or I'm just not going to do it. It's just no money to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you protect yourself from absorbing too much of the emotion?
I don't think that I do a good job of that. I feel like I'm a sponge that can't keep herself in check. I just try to eliminate myself from it. That's the only way. And I've tried the whole put the golden aura around yourself. Yeah, that don't work for me. I cannot golden aura myself. I am what I am. It's just what I am. I'm a sponge. I just try to make sure that I don't get too deep in. And I think that I would just process it the best that I could, but I don't think I can control that. I think that either the grief or the spirits respecting me is what shut it down for a little while. Because I could hear spirit chatter still, and I still could feel attachments. But with the grief, I was so exhausted. I just couldn't. I would have been no good to anybody.
Right.
I just couldn't do it. There was nothing left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got about 5 minutes left, and Carol has a good one for you. She's been on fire tonight. Have you ever been to a location where you can't physically get past a certain area?
Yes. Yes, there's actually a house in Granbury. I'm not going to say a name because someone lives in it. But the leader of our paranormal group said, I got to take you out here. We get there, and the children literally, physically would not let me in the gate. Would not let me in the gate.
Spirit children?
No, real children that this voodoo woman had been doing. And this is the creepiest thing. And a lot of people would say, oh, you just saw it and started doing more dissociation. The minute we pull up to this place, there are beaks everywhere. I am not even joking. Beaks, bird beaks of all different types of birds everywhere. There's feathers and little beaks and big beaks and beaks. And we look, and these two children come out, and he's like, hey, he's gone over there and played video games with these kids. And these kids are like zoned. They won't let him in. They won't let me in. And I can feel her over in the doorway. And I look over, and there is a goat. And I'm like, this is dark. Like, this is just dark. And he's like, let us in. And they just won't. And I told him, I can't go past this fence. Even if those boys weren't there, I could not go past this. I don't know if it's my body saying hell to the no, or it's the spirit going, you cannot go past here. But I look over, and there are hog heads hanging. This is in Granbury, Texas. There are hog heads hanging off of some hooks on this thing. It's like a horror movie. And I look over, and there's a goat kind of leaned, like, oh, it was probably a sheep because it didn't have horns or anything, but I'm not a farmy girl. So it's like, lean it, and the thing turns around, and there is a hole missing out of the side of it. Like something had chomped it. And it was just all the way absolute horror. But I know I would not have been able to go in there. And if I had pushed through and used my power to be able to move in, I believe it would have been very bad for me. Very. Yeah. But that is the only time that I felt like I could not physically, myself, or spiritually go any further into the location. And I worry about those children that are in that house and the woman. And now she will no longer let anyone come and investigate anymore. Since I went, she won't let. So I think that sick, dark entity that was there has told the homeowner they're not allowed here anymore. Because she was very welcoming before that for the rest of the group until I came to investigate now. But she knows I saw her. Like, you know, she knows. She's very strong. She's very old. So, yeah, that would be about it. But those are some great questions tonight.
Yeah, so we got 2 minutes left. So is there anything going on with Hood Paranormal you want to share? Anything upcoming for them?
Not that I know of, but if anybody would like to get a hold of us, they can. I go in and I read the messages on Hood Paranormal. So if anybody wants to get a hold of me, they can go there. They can go to my Facebook. It's kind of locked down. Hood Paranormal is probably the best way to get a hold of me. And just ask for Michelle in the message. And then I'll read it and I'll contact, because there are three of us, Mike, myself, and then Gabe Gonzalez, the primary leader of the group. So if you'll just go to Hood Paranormal on Facebook, shoot me a message, and I'll get back with you. Maybe we can come out and, as a group, or just me, or however it needs to be. Or, you know, cool. Other podcasts would like me on. I've got plenty of stories. I never run out of things to talk about. You're so welcome.
That would be great.
Yep. And so since you just shared how to get a hold of you, I think we can take one more question.
Okay.
Northwest Paranormal Research Group is saying, are you an empath?
I am. I'm actually a genetic empath. My mother's an empath. I have 2 children that are empaths. I'm an empath. I am. So yes, that's a little trick I got too. So there's quite a few of them. I also hear spirits. They talk to me. They can actually touch me. I also can locate things a lot of times. So yeah, it's a fun day.
Excellent.
Well, thank y'all so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
This was a good show. We appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
And one thing I'm going to point out, I mentioned it to Michelle earlier today. She actually was one of the first ones to approach us to say, I want to be on the show. I'm a huge fan. And so
Perfect.
I got to call out that, you know, it made our day to know we actually had fans.
It's like, oh my God,
started.
a fan.
Well, you know, Terry, I did the interview with Terry, and you did an interview with Terry, and Terry was actually my very first. So, and then I did Into the Pit on the Vibes Network or Vibes broadcast. Sorry, Kyle.
Yeah.
I like Kyle. I haven't been on his show yet, though. But
oh man, he's point on, and he does such an array of things. Like he'll have an actor one week, a paranormal, a witch. I mean, it's just
all over.
Whatever fits your ticket. You know,
yeah.
But I really enjoyed this hour. So
yeah, and
so did we.
It was funny because the reason I said I didn't realize we had fans was it was after episode 3. She reached out to me. It's like, I'm a huge fan. Can I be on the show? And I was like, wait, hold on. Let me process this moment. I was like, absolutely, come on the show.
Well, yeah. So that's fun. I'm glad you guys had me.
Oh, and Gabe called you out and said you couldn't go in the cemetery where Dad is either.
I got bum rushed. The only time in the cemetery I've ever been bum rushed, I had a spirit bum rush me. It scared my dog so much. The dog who was a Chihuahua Terrier mix, tried to jump in the window of the truck. It came from the back corner, and literally, wind and all, I was like, I'm out of here. Yeah. That's the problem with ex-husbands. They know too much. But yeah, that cemetery, I just don't want any part of it. But it's something to do in that back. And I always get nervous. I always think, because cemeteries are so peaceful for me, I always think, did that one get buried alive? Because it's a really old cemetery. And I can't imagine why he'd be hanging around, because usually to me, cemeteries are like the quietest.
Yeah.
They're out doing grocery shopping or something.
That's why they used to tie bells on to the cemeteries into the graves, is because people would actually get buried alive.
Yeah, that's my first thought when I do that. It's not like someone who's still got that spiritual umbilical cord still attached, you know, kind of wondering what's going on. This dude straight like bum rushed me like a whew.
Wow.
Yeah. It was yeah.
So hey, Northwest Paranormal Research Group, if you're wanting her to contact you, I suggest leaving in the comments a way she can reach you, because I'll be honest, I'm not even sure how to reach you, so I can even pass information on. So,
or they can just go to Hood Paranormal and message me.
There you go.
There you go. Hey, Courtney, thank you for stopping by.
Yep. Thanks everyone for watching. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Guys.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Now I see how to get out of here. Bye.
Bye. Okay, so before we close out for the night, we have next week's show to kind of promote out. It's Nikki Cameron, our friend from Australia. She's going to be our guest.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting to see what it's like in Australia.
And her world. See what she's up to. She's all about.
Yeah. And I just wanted to take a moment that Carla and I, when we were on our 2-week vacation doing stuff, we actually were talking about the show and talking about how we were missing y'all. So we are so glad to be back. And as far as we know, any, injuries or being sick, we will be finishing out the year. So we should have straight shows to the end of the year. And you'll want to stay tuned, because there will be a few surprises along the way. So stick around, and we're glad we're back, everyone.
Yeah. We'll see you next week.
Yep. Same time, same channel.
Okay. Good night, everybody.
Northwest Paranormal Research Group, you'll have to message me on Facebook as to what kind of link you're wanting to get. So good night, everyone.
Good night.
Safe journeys.
Have a good night.